In this video I'm going to be looking at how to age metals. Hello, welcome to Frankie Rogers Art, the only place on the internet where we can definitively decide if ducks with teeth would be scarier than without. And in this video we're going to be looking at how I make metals look old and grimy. We're going to keep this week's video short and dive straight into it, so let's get going. Now the first thing that I'm going to be doing is applying a simple layer of Leadbelcher all over the metal areas. And I want to take this opportunity to point out two mistakes I've made already in this process. Firstly, I decided to start making this video halfway through my paint job, and as you can see I've already attempted to do some of the metal. I tried to dry brush some Vallejo metal colour on there, and it just didn't work quite as well. It was flicking the metal flakes everywhere and it wasn't looking quite as rough as I was expecting it to. Instead it just wasn't really clear what was going on. So that's why I'm going in and I'm going to apply an even base layer all over the model instead. The second mistake is if you're ever going to do a orc buggy, for the love of all that is precious, sub-assemble. Do not build this thing, glue it together, then paint it. That is a terrible mistake. I've done it to two buggies. I've got two that I haven't built, but I've got two that I've fully assembled, and it's a stupid idea. Because there are so many little nooks and crannies that are just inaccessible and are going to be an absolute nightmare to paint. This wasn't exactly the most joyous painting process. Not really looking forward to the second buggy I've got to do either, but the next two, they might be alright. So I personally believe the key to getting a good dirty looking metal is washes. Once this initial base layer is dried, I'm going to be applying some washes like Nuln Oil and Agrag Surfshade. And something to keep in mind is that you don't want to be too regimented in your approach. You don't want to think, okay, we're going to do an all over layer of Nuln Oil, and then we're going to do another layer of Agrag Surfshade, and that'll be enough. Actually look at what you're doing. Be messy. Don't just stick to these rules that you put in your head. Slap it here, slap it there, because to make it look convincingly dirty, it needs to be a bit more random. So be random with your application. Also, another tip that I'd like to throw out there, mix up what washes you're going to be using. I can't stress that enough. Getting a nice range of colours can really make the metals look a bit more interesting rather than just black and brown. You can add some sepia tones and some reds as well, and it really adds a bit more interest to the metals. And let's be honest, it's not just going to be browns that it picks up when it's out in the wild. If you're going through a green field, some of the dirt is actually going to be green, as it's going to be little grass clippings dyeing the metals. Or if you're going through a desert, you're going to have a more yellowy tinge to your crevices. So just bear this in mind when you're deciding what washes to use. Try and let the base you've got on the miniature influence what washes you're going to use on the metals. Now when I was done using these washes, I decided it was time to move on to pigment powders. I have little experience in pigments, and this is another showcase of how to mess up. But it's important as a YouTuber to show you that we fail all the time. It's not human not to, so don't worry if you're messing up. You can always figure out a way to fix it later. What I did here was mix up two different pigments that I thought were appropriate for my basing scheme. I then bunged it all together on my palette, mixed in some water to create a wash kind of thing, and I tried to stipple it on all over the affected areas. On the tyres I was a bit more heavy-handed, on the metals it was a bit less so. Then I left this to dry for ages, and when it came back I was a bit disappointed, to be honest. I had gone a bit too heavy-handed, and this is where I discovered the magic of the pigment powder. It can be reactivated using water. So if you've over-applied it on a certain area on your model, all you need to do is take a loaded watery brush and you can reactivate the pigments and therefore get rid of them using a paper towel or something, or spread them about further. This was a bit of a saving grace when it came to some of the purpley areas on my model, as I didn't want them to be too dirty. I was more hoping that the metals would be. As for the tyres, I wicked off some of the excess and then I went in with the black that I used to initially base the tyres and stippled it on over the dirt. And then this created a much more patchy sort of effect. And I'm actually really happy with how the tyres look. So as you can see, the metals on this buggy are absolutely filthy, and that's exactly what I was after, so I'm quite happy with the result. If you would like to see more 5-minute long sort of videos, please let me know in the comments down below. I think it'd be quite fun to do smaller lessons, compact them down, and create a bit of a series. If you have an idea for a name for that little 5-minute long series, then let me know in the comments as well. Thank you for liking this video, and if you want to see more stuff that I'm creating, you know to hit the subscribe button, and there are links in the description below to support me in other ways, like through Patreon or buying a t-shirt. But until next time, I will see you later.